All right. So 4.5. So this is one of the ones where there's a lot of controversy around it there. So once again, I've been doing this for a few years, and this basic starting position of plumb bob through the patella tendon is where I use it. I did bring my plumb bob. So we go to a 3 o'clock position, foremost position. After I've had a good look at James riding, I know that he rides in about that sort of an ankle position, so changing this very much changes where the ankle works there. And it's the same for that knee angle. If we're measuring that with our goniometer, it's important that we get that position right. And then we're going to come through and drop our plumb bob through the back of the kneecap. And after looking at him quickly before, that was pretty close. This to me says he's about 10 millimetres behind the centre of the pedal axle, which is very much in the realms of what I would consider an acceptable position. If James had come into me and said, I'm getting hamstring pain, and that's measuring as 10 millimetres behind the centre, I would try moving him forward a little bit there, because I know coming forward he's going to take a bit more load onto his thighs. Okay, it's getting him a little bit more upright here as well. If I'm happy with the knee angle he's presenting with there, as I come forward, I've effectively brought his hip closer to his pedal, so I'll also take him up a bit to maintain that same knee angle there. All right, that'll make basic sense. So that 4.5 position, a nice starting point is that plumb bob, but it's not the be all and end all. You'll hear some people talk about hover position, balances in hovers and this sort of thing. The science is poor, and I'm not wrapped with the results. There's a few people who really like it, and I'm very happy to for them to keep doing that. But this just seems to work pretty damn well, and particularly when I've got people with injuries, it's amazing how many times I'll see them come in and they've got a sore knee, and we'll go, okay, how can we change that position for that sore knee? And often with that sore knee, you'll see that their saddles for the plumb bob will hang 20 mil, 30 mil forward of where that is. Now, coming back to bike size, that's one of the classic ones where someone's got a bike that's too long for them, or they put a huge long 140 mil head stem because they look cool on them there, and they've adjusted their seat so they can reach their handlebar, and that'll end up with them working in a lot of knee flexion. Okay, so classically we see those sort of things there. So sore knees, 4.5 we're talking here, we might sneak it backward a little bit there, sore hammies, move it forward. These are really basic guidelines, and it's how everything interacts with everything else that becomes really important. And sore low back, and we just demonstrated before again, if you just sneak back for us, James, you can just see a bit more flexion there, so going forward there, he gets a bit more upright. Okay, so they're the basic sort of ideas for that 4.5 position. What's the next one? So, and this is another interesting one as well, and we chatted a little bit about some of the research and the back pain. Jump off, James, have a breather for a sec, thanks mate. Another one of the important tools, and my non-cyclists who come in the practice really want to know why I've got a spirit level in sometimes. So basically dropping a spirit level over the top here. Now that's pretty much a dead flat saddle. Now this particular saddle has got very little dip in it, very little scallop in it there. So if I measure front to back with a spirit level there, it's giving me a pretty good number. Now some of the ones, and one of the other physios last week alluded to one of the Celeratellis with quite a big scoop in it and that sort of thing, and that can really affect the way you sit on your pelvis depending on where you measure it. And one of the things that I do with them is I don't actually measure the tail, because the tail sort of kicks up a fair bit, and I find that if I go level there, people get discomfort in the front part and also some low back pain because it tends to posteriorly tilt them. So some of the ideas for injuries we look at with saddle tilt there is, and we've got some nice research to back this up, that going forward 10 to 15 degrees eases low back pain. Classically 70% had a reasonable improvement in the research that I talked about last time. If I'm dealing with people who've got sore hands, sore wrists, sore shoulders, sore necks, sometimes tilting back so that the weight falls back into a little bit more of a posterior tilt, that will tend to take the load off the hands. And it's interesting, I was riding out towards the hills on the weekend and I was thinking, God, my neck, my arms are sore, what's going on? And I had pulled my bike apart, which is a silly thing to do, but I had. And when I actually got off, I didn't have a spirit level with me halfway out towards the hills, but I literally just dropped it back a couple of millimetres and immediately my neck pain eased. So it was a good little reminder for me about, you know, this stuff I talk about, sometimes it does actually work, so it's good. It's good. All right. And then the reach and drop. Now, this was a a classic one here again where getting the right cycle is important. I was chatting to Daryl about this the other day, and this is a classic guy. He's a reasonably tall guy, but he's got a really kyphotic spine. And it's a sort of genetic kyphotic spine. You can crack and manip and stretch it all you like there. He's always going to be in that position. And this particular bike, as it was set up for someone his height, may well have been perfect. But he doesn't work that way. And he was coming in with neck and shoulder pain. And you can't see it really clearly, but he's got a lot of elevation of his scapulars there. He's really up around his ears with his shoulders in that position. You can sort of just vaguely see where his shoulders are compared to his neck there. Now, he was in a lot of pain. He's trying to do pretty big miles at the moment. So I said, let's just really go conservative and get your pain under control. So most of these stems, for those of you who don't know bikes very well, they come apart. They're a two-piece stem, not like the old school ones there. And you can spin this stem upside down, which actually has that effect on it there. It brings it higher and also brings it back towards you. You've also got spaces in here. James has got another 5mm on the top, so you could bring that up a tiny bit higher if you want to, but coming up and back, and so you can see in that second position, one of the classic things, look at the extended elbows there compared to the flexed elbows there. The picture doesn't quite do it justice to show where his scapula is through there as well, and I thought, as he happened to be a doctor, I might protect his face with my smiley face there, but he felt a difference immediately on that. His saddle was pretty level, but another thing I definitely looked at was what his saddle angle was like there as well. So there are a few of those bits and pieces there.